Hello, everyone. I am Amanda Sibilia, and before I begin my presentation, I just want to say I am very grateful to speak here tonight on the EA meeting Zoom platform. It means so much to me tonight to be able to communicate to you the special work that I've been doing around the Neptune square Neptune transits. And I just want to say that this is going to be a Jeffrey Wolf Green Evolutionary Astrology presentation. However, I am also rooted in Shamanic astrology, so I want to bring together the evolutionary astrology teachings with how we can use our personal experiences throughout life to help us anchor in this energy that we're always learning about. So, one quick thing to note, in case you're interested, is that I am actually getting my doctorate in quantum medicine, which is where a lot of this is coming from. So for the quantum medicine, we believe that we initiate healing in the quantum field. So not only for our clients, but also for ourselves. So when you go ahead and you approach the natal chart, you can initiate that healing for yourself and for the other person in the quantum field. Okay, so now let's get into the nitty gritties here. Let me see. Okay. The Neptune square Neptune transit brings us an opportunity to use the active dream world as a way to expand our consciousness, okay? We can use this transit, in my experience, with the energies presented in a very creative way. A lot of times when we're going through a Neptune square, Neptune transit, or we have a Neptune square moon, Neptune square, Neptune opposition in the chart, it can create a lot of confusion around who we are and why we're here and what is it that we're supposed to be doing. So through the expansion of our consciousness, through this Neptune transit, we can really unveil to ourselves the answers to these questions. So in order to understand the transit, I just want to go into the discovery of Neptune very briefly. Okay, so the discovery of Neptune I find so very interesting because so many astronomers, you may know this, that they were looking up to the sky for a very long time trying to figure out, what that big ball of light was up there. And it took a long time for someone to come out and say that it is indeed a planet. Now, many people, such as Galileo, observed Neptune without any recollection. And I feel that through the research of how this planet was discovered, a lot of people were in a state of confusion. And through their confusion, they'd write down what they were observing, and they would pass it along down the chain of the, astronomy chain of command, right? And then finally, Johann Galilei was the first one to come out and say, hey, this is a planet. And that happened in September 23rd of 1846. And I find it so very interesting that there's a state of confusion, because in that confusion and in these astronomers just letting go and saying, okay, you know what, I give up. I'm just going to pass it along to the next guy, right? In their state of surrender, of letting it go, they were able to allow somebody to take what they have, their insights, what they have gained, and do something more creative with it. And I feel like this is the essence of the Neptune transits, is that we're supposed to be suspended in such a state of confusion that it's going to make us want to just surrender into it, into that act of letting go, so that we can finally admit to ourselves that we have no idea of what to make of anything, and to suspend all expectations of knowing that this is, that we know what it is. So it's very interesting. And I feel that when we do that act of surrender with the Neptune, that dance between Neptune and surrendering, new visionary data can come into our consciousness. Now, real briefly, I want to get into the Neptune's glyph, because this was a big aha moment for me when I saw the glyph in a different way. And, you know, when we start off in astrology, we see the glyph as a trident. You know, Neptune is the king of the sea, the cosmic ocean, the tide that binds, right? But then when we look at it, we can see that there's a cross of matter there that's penetrating the crescent of spirit. And I find that very interesting that, you know, some people call it the crescent of soul too, the crescent of soul over the cross of matter. And that gives us an inclination of the moon, right? And in evolutionary astrology, we believe the moon is the ego to some capacity. And another way to look at it is that the moon has our lineage into it. You know, we look at the moon to see what we got our PhD in, what did we master in the I'm getting tongue tied, the last life cycle. Okay, it's telling to then for people who have Neptune square the moon, because a lot of those people, and even opposition the moon, they are in a state of confusion their entire life sometimes around who they are, where did they come from, you know, what do they have their roots in. So for me, this is where Neptune gets his mystical nature. It's mystical nature, because we're not looking at this as a trident anymore. We're looking at this as our soul reaching out to us, saying that our desires, the soul's desires, is the most important narrative here in the chart, and that we should really be aiming our center towards what the soul has come here to fulfill. And I also, you know, I want to get into later a little bit about how you can access that information through the dream world. So, all things Neptune, just in case there are some beginners here, I just wanted to bring brief attention to what we can contribute Neptune with. So of course it's the sign of Pisces, and that's the sign where, you know, we say it's the source of God, where everything has sprung from and we go back towards. And that also means the 12th house, of course, Neptune and dreams, and this side of mysticism, the mystic, and the cosmic ocean of unconditional love. And I see a lot of astrologers, including myself, who like to point attention to that. You know, Neptune is the higher octave of what Venus would represent. You know, Venus represents humanly love, right? Well, Neptune can represent the unconditional love from God, that love that we're all trying to seek throughout our entire lives. Now, I call this water world because we're trying to transport ourselves into Neptune. And in the EA glossary, there is this beautiful line given by Jeffrey Wolf Green about consciousness. And he says, consciousness is like water taking on the form of whatever is contained within it. And that really brings it home for me for this transit, because, you know, our consciousness is water. And if we look into quantum physics, there is a theory called superposition, where our consciousness ripples out into the quantum field. And my ripple is now connecting with your ripple, and everyone on this call, we're all connecting and making a new ripple that will form a wave of consciousness that will ultimately create a new field of possibilities for everybody to take some sort of healing modality from it, if you will, a healing creative insight to expand consciousness in. So we, the waves, are a boundless source of the one cosmic ocean. Now, I feel where we get the Neptune square Neptune, that can be a little bit tricky, because we forget that we're the ocean and we feel so separate. We feel like the big kahuna wave that is not a part of the ocean. And so I feel that, you know, that's the beauty of this transit a lot, is not to get caught up in the state of confusion or the crisis in identity, but to try and connect back to that from which we came from. So for me to tie it in up to this point, you know, Neptune is the gate to our soul, that wave of energy that comes off this planet is a portal for us to access our soul through, to cut away from that human awareness, you know, the, whatever you want to call it, the ego, the noise that we're constantly bombarded with all the time. It helps us get cut through that so that we can enter this world of the cosmic ocean and get into our dreams and have fun with the transit and even the hard aspects in the chart, rather than seeing it as something like really difficult and something to weigh you down, you know, like, or, you know, saying that the transit is happening to you for, and list your negative reasons for it. Nothing's happening to you. It's, you know, true. It's happening for you. And so there's the beautiful ripple that we are all making together. And of course, we are the waves in the ocean. So in the EA glossary, I'm just, I want to bring my attention to where you can get this information for yourself. There are a few paragraphs in there where you can see what I'm about to talk about. So there are 3 types of dreams. We have past life dreams, superconscious dreams, and what Jeffrey Wolf Green calls nonsensical dreams. For this talk, the work that I do with myself and my clients, we focus on the past life and the superconscious dreaming. So the past life dreaming is probably what you guys are like really familiar about. It's when we go into the chart to look at what we have just gotten through, right? So we can go to the South Node, we can go to the moon, we can consult many parts of the astrology chart to see, well, what was going on in our past lives. So the past life dreaming, in conjunction with the astrology chart, can offer up to us a host of healing centered around trauma or karmic wounding that we are carrying over into this lifetime. It can also, side note, help you do soul retrieval. Of course, that is a very advanced shamanic technique. But again, you know, if you feel like there's a part of you that was lost in a past life, it might be something that you should check out. It can also help us to remember the gifts and our talents and what we got our PhD in, because as I said before, if you have a Neptune square moon or, you know, Neptune opposite moon, you couldn't forget what you've just gotten through, and you might have to revisit all of this stuff to reintegrate it back into the chart. Now, this is where we primarily do all of our work, and it's the superconscious dreams. And in the EA glossary, Jeffrey Wolf Green says that the superconscious dreaming is when our consciousness travels into the astral realm, the world of dreams where we can receive key teachings and messages. And that's exactly what I'm going to get into in just a little bit, and to see the science behind how this works. So by going into the astral realm in my work is the world of your dreams. It's a very real world. This is not to be confused with lucid dreaming, where you go into the dream with the notion that you are controlling everything. When we do dream work with the Neptune transits, we want to go into the dream with the expectation that we are not going to control anything. It's through this work that if you let go of your control, then you can get into the flow, into the wave of that Neptune transit, and allow that Neptune transit to guide you to the new information that you need to bring into consciousness. Because remember, like Jeffrey had said, our consciousness is a container, right? It's like water. What we put in it is what gets into it, you know? So we have to allow ourselves to just let it go, to just get into that flow. And another aspect of the superconscious dreams, like I said, it says here, helps to let go of what we identify ourselves with or as, and to explore other desired archetypes in a safe manner. This is another, I don't want to say a problem, but a lot of people that go through this transit and they experience a crisis in identity, the crisis a lot comes from the fact that they don't know which choice to make. And so by getting into the transit and being able to explore all the different kinds of choices you want to make through the dream work, it can really open up the person to being willing to just play and to see, you know, what their choices would bring, like what kind of karmic, what would it bring? What kind of results would it bring? So it's very important to allow the person to really explore everything that they're willing to explore and not just narrow it in on one thing. So why does dream work actually work, right? Well, like I said, allows the person to try on different archetypes present in the natal chart. There could be some archetypes in the natal chart that they're really interested in trying out, but they're too afraid to do it in reality. You know, and it's not, I want to make a point. It's not, you're not creating an illusion with them. You're creating space for them to explore. And so becoming willing to explore the world of the soul, the person can release control over themselves and they can bring in new data into the waking world, reality. And that works through when you have a dream, you are being present in that dream and conscious of it and bringing in the symbols from that dream into reality. So that would entail writing it down, investigating the symbols, and making your own dream journal so that you can see the pattern of your symbols and how that's playing out in your life. That's how we get awakened to new visionary data. And by the end of the Neptune cycle, we can leave with a renewed sense of knowing who we are, with new eyes to see and with the return of clarity. Because the entire time you're in that Neptune transit, it's confusing. And that's why we get the grand notion of the midlife crisis, the beginning of the midlife crisis, because the person, you're 40, 41 years old typically, and you're going through the Neptune transit, and you're feeling so confused about the life around you. Now, to bring in other planets, I find it so very interesting. So we got Neptune out there on the outer skirts, right? So far away. And then we have Saturn. And a lot of people like to poo-poo Saturn and say that Saturn's a downer and, you know, Saturn's depressing and all this stuff. But I want to make a note here. When you're doing dream work with the astrology chart, Saturn can be such a great ally, because if the person has a strong Saturn presence in their chart, then it can really help the person feel anchored and centered in their dream exploration in the astral plane. Like for me, I'm a Capricorn sun. My Saturn energy in my chart is very strong. So when I do astral work for myself and for my clients, I feel very grounded in that dream world realm, because I'm already anchored into my matter. I feel very anchored to the earth. However, that can also play into the other side of having a lot of Saturn or strong Saturn in the chart, where the person going through the transit is getting maybe some clarity around what they are moving towards, right? What's more in alignment with them, but then they're feeling really scared to make the change. They're feeling overly cautious or preventing any action from taking place because, you know, we need to be responsible. We want to make sure that what we're about to do is going to be in the best interest for everybody, because, you know, the Saturn matters of career and taking care of family and, you know, having a house to live in is so very important. Sometimes we can't, you know, go off and be that wild bohemian in the desert when we have a family to take care of. So that's another cool way to use the dream world, is to get into these desires that the soul is having that you might not be able to act out. So Neptune squaring opposing natal moon, I think I talked a lot about, and it can be confusing for the identity and the emotions. And with that, I just want to say that with Neptune squaring the moon or Neptune opposite the moon, it can make the person feel like there are so many emotions coming through, like a wild rip current. And it can also feel like, you know, to use ocean metaphors, a tsunami wave crashing in on them, wondering who the heck they are. Why are they here? You know, and the person I'm with, is that even who I'm supposed to be with? They're like, what is this? This is not my life. I don't know whose life this is, but it doesn't feel like it's mine. And these can be normal emotions that might have to be dealt with to make sure that the person isn't going through that Neptune illusion where, you know, we have our rose-colored glasses on and we're just wondering about, you know, are we really living in a fantasy world or is this actual reality? But with this in particular, it's about learning how to process the emotions and not get that emotional whiplash, because a lot of times they'll get the feelings and then it will just fade away before they can even process it. It comes in really fast and goes out really fast. So again, I've seen with dream work how it can really get a handle on that aspect in the chart. Now, here we get into the quantum science. So here's a groovy picture that I tried to pick as best as I could for quantum entanglement. Now, this is how the dream work stuff works, okay? I'm going to try to explain it in a way where it's not going to be super confusing, but you picture yourself as the blue circle and say I'm the red circle here. And now when we come together, you can see that these circles are combining in such a way, it's making a vesica Pisces in the center, right? You see the blue line going down and the red line going down. And so you can think of it as our consciousness connecting together. And it's creating this green orb around it, which is what I like to term well, everyone terms it. It's called the biofield. And through this biofield, you and I are exchanging energy where we are getting something from the transmission that we both need. Okay, so this process is called superposition of consciousness, and it does involve, it's called entanglement of two energetic signatures. You are one signature and I am the other signature. Now, this doesn't happen with everybody. This can only happen when two people are on either the same energy frequency or the other person is on a higher level of energy frequency. Now, what I mean by that, without getting so confusing here, we all have our own energetic signature, right? And let's say there's an astrologer who's been practicing for 25 years. So their vibration on the astrology modality would be higher than mine. So that person can come in and their biofield can bring my energy level up, okay? Whereas if I come in to do, let's say, an astrology, it might be hard for me to raise them up if we're, you know, trying to do a healing modality. It all depends. This is where it gets really confusing because quantum physics is a paradox. So we have to remember that. It's not to be taken literally. It's just that from what I see, if we have two people come together and the one person is at a lower vibration than the other person, it causes destructive interference. Destructive interference is when you have, like I said, a lower vibration and a higher vibration come together, they crash and they cancel each other out. So you want to have that, you know, that ladder, if you want to vision it like a ladder, you need to be one rung up above the person in order to lift them up and create a quantum leap in consciousness. I hope that makes sense. But it's not to be taken literally. There's a lot of room to play because quantum physics is something very new and quantum medicine is brand new. So this is only to be taken as a way to inspire you to work with your dreams and perhaps to get a team of dream explorers with you. Because yeah, you can come in as a facilitator for your client and start to do dream work with them to anchor them into this Neptune energy. But it's also really cool to get a group of people together and say that you're meeting somewhere on planet Earth and to go explore that area and then see what happens over time when all of these people are connecting together at this sacred spot on Earth and all the creative insights that flow from that. So when we're walking through the dream world, we have to remember that we are the active participant, and we have to allow that other person to have their own conscious awareness about what is going on and to never impose upon them what we think is going on based on what we see in the chart. the whole purpose of this work is to allow the person to explore, to come to their own conclusions, and to bring clarity to the transit for them. We're just the guiding force to allow them to do this. And of course, you can totally do this work all by yourself with a Neptune transit, or even the Neptune energy in your chart. Again, that Neptune frequency would be the one to lift you up onto the ladder, you know, and raise your vibration up, so that then you can open up your mind to the creative possibilities. Okay, and I just decided to include a really colorful and bright archetype wheel to see all the different kinds of roles that a person can use with the Neptune transit and their dreams, you know, to see where they want to create their focus to, where they want to anchor it. All right, and I know in evolutionary astrology, we do bring a lot of attention to the emotional body, that we can receive a lot of healing in that emotional body. And that's what really lights me up about this dream work with the Neptune transit, is that I have this picture over here of this person actually getting what's called a GVD picture done. It's this really cool camera that I have a hard time saying his name, but Korolovka. He had developed this camera that takes pictures, accurate representations of the emotional field, the vital body, or what some people call the biofield. And it can tell us the state of that person's emotional condition at that moment in time. I have here, through engaging in the biofield back loop with another person of equal or greater frequency, you can over time alter your supramental body. Now this is getting into more quantum physics. So it's to say that the body has multiple dimensions, and in the supramental realm is where our archetypes lie. That's where they play out, in the supramental body. So when you go into the supramental body and you're playing around with these archetypes, and sometimes you can alter them to create massive leaps in consciousness, you then you start this trickle down effect that comes through. So when you alter the supramental body, you're then going to alter what Jeffrey Wolf Green calls the emotional body, which some people call the vital body or the biofield. And when you initiate a change in the emotional body, that's when we can see a huge difference in how we're feeling through a Neptune transit. That's where we can shift the confusion. And when the confusion is shifted, then we get into what's called the morphogenetic field that actually imprints upon the physical body. So by doing this profound work, I mean, it's very profound. You're going into the astral plane to get into this Neptune transit, which is basically the soul communicating with you. And then it can initiate this huge wave of healing throughout the person's entire being. And here's what I was alluding to before. The person in the middle, this is normal. And then the person on the left, they're saying they have some kind of health problem. And you can see the person on the right, they're experiencing what's called some mental problems. So for me, when I look at that, I said, yeah, you know what? Before I got into astrology and understood my Neptune square moon, that's exactly how I felt. Totally out of whack, out of sync, and completely confused about what was going on in my life. So I really hope that this talk brings some new perspective into how you see this transit now, and how you even see Neptune. And as I said, this Neptune squared Neptune, the infamous crisis in identity, happens around ages 40, 41. The attention goes towards taking off the rose-colored glasses to witness any illusions that we have created. And it's a time to be witness to the old programming and consciousness. I need to really stress that from what I've seen with the people I work with and my own healing through astrology with the people that I've worked with, you know, you have to really embrace everything that you're becoming a witness to in this transit, and to really be present with it, and to not make any judgments around it or any harsh decisions. You know, you just really got to just sounds cliche, but go with the flow and just embrace and surrender. And then by the time it's over, you can walk away feeling totally renewed and clarity. You know, you just like, you know exactly where you're going. And that's really cool, because then we're going to go through, which maybe it might inspire another discussion, the Uranus opposition that we all experience in our mid-40s. And that's another crisis that comes through. So you got to say, you know, we've got Neptune coming in and telling us, hey, you know what, these are things that you may want to look at. These are things that you might want to gain some clarity around, what you may want to change, you know, and then prepare yourself for being present for that Uranus opposition that happens. So dreaming with the chart, you're probably wondering how you can do this. It's very easy, in my opinion, and I think you will think so too. It's very easy. This isn't rocket science. What you're going to do, if you know your astrology chart really well, if you're a fellow astrologer that's practicing already, consult the chart for the area you want to focus on. You know, where's your Neptune? What's going on with it? Where's the transiting Neptune in conjunction with your Neptune? Really look into what it is you want to explore, and then be dedicated in this exploration. The dream work is not something that happens overnight, like the Neptune transit. It takes time. You know, I'm not in my square Neptune yet. I'm only I'm 2 degrees away from it, but I've noticed since I was 37 that a lot of this has been coming forward. So you really want to be present with what is arising for you. And you really want to be willing to be in this for the long haul, because you're not going to be doing dream work and getting answers right away. You're going to have to be witness to the patterns that you see in the dream and then what you see in reality, and being just present with that. So you want to set your intentions for the dream every night. If you're curious as to how to travel with a partner, you need to make sure that the people that you travel in the astral realm with through Neptune, they know exactly where you want to go. So say I wanted to go to the Great Barrier Reef for a dream exploration. Since I've already been there, I can then take my group of people and say, hey, let's go to the Great Barrier Reef. This is the time that we're going to meet, and this is what our agenda is going to be. So everybody knows what's going on, and we're all in the same place. And if you do this over time, like I said, you'll see a really cool pattern unfold between you and your dream partners. It's really amazing what can come through. Now, some people say, well, what do we do if we don't remember our dreams? I was going to say do and did. I did have a client who said that she just couldn't remember her dreams. And so what you want to do is, you have to be very delicate. You have to say, okay, I'm going to make a commitment to not eat 2 hours before I go to sleep, because when you eat before you sleep, all your attention in the body is going to be going to digesting that food, and it can really alter your dream state. So you want to make sure that you're dreaming on a somewhat empty stomach. And then another thing that you want to make sure is that you are soft on yourself. Again, this is perfect for the Neptune transit, because you have to be soft on yourself. You can't be rigid. You have to allow your boundaries to drop, and just be okay with if you just have a dream and you only get a sudden glimpse of something, or a word, maybe a smell, maybe just a sound. You have to be ready and willing to receive anything. And then over time, you will build up to having dreams that can feel like you're in a movie. So it does take a good amount of time. And you have to show your soul that you are paying attention. So you need to keep a notepad or a journal, and you need to write down what you are seeing in your dreams. Because if you don't write them down and you don't honor them by showing your soul that you're taking action towards receiving the insights, the well of dreams will stop. It's really interesting. I don't want to make claims to say, your soul's going to cut you off. Your soul's cutting you off because it's mad because you're not paying attention. But it's just something interesting that happens. If you don't take action towards what you're seeing in the dream world, it does seem to fade away, which is very interesting. So which brings me to my next and last bullet point, and it's to make sure that you create what I call a book of secrets. So a book of secrets is when you write your dreams and you're noting symbols and anything that stands out to you. You're really exploring those symbols in a unique way. You're not looking them up in a dream book, but you're actually researching them and figuring out, well, what does this pigeon that I had a dream about mean? Like, so I'll go and I'll explore the habitat of a pigeon, and something will stand out actually, and it'll be a message for me. And so then I know, okay, pigeon means serenity. So that's what that means for me, and I'm going to put it in my book of secrets. And over time, as you look at all the symbols that come through, you can really gain the language of what your Neptune or what your Neptune transit is meaning for you. So it's a process rooted in experience. So taking what we learn through our fellow astrologers and astro lovers, and then taking that information and actually doing something with it to create a soulful action to bring about a really powerful change. And that's my presentation for the Neptune square.